right, well, like I said, my name is Debbie Anderson. I'll be the moderator tonight, and we have some great things to talk about tonight. One of our first talking points will be, and all of this is specific to North Conway, Kearsarge, Center Conway, and the Conway Lakes region. So any statistics you might hear us talk about, that is all inclusive of those towns for the most part, unless the speaker says otherwise. So our first talking point that we're going to talk about tonight is going to be property values in Conway, North Conway area. And that's going to be, we're going to have Kerry talking about that, Kerry MacDougall, and I will introduce her in just a moment. Next, we'll have how has COVID-19 affected home values? I think we're in a quite an interesting area, and we're seeing a lot of activity here. So how is it affecting your home value? That's what we're going to talk about. That'll be a group discussion. And then Bernadette Donahue will be talking to us about local market trends. So what are we seeing? Hey, Bernie. What are we seeing by our clients? What are they looking for? What kind of price points? Although most of you are homeowners, you know, what are we seeing with people who want to come into the area, as well as our active sellers right now? And then we're going to be followed up after that with Brendan Battenfielder. And hey, Brendan, he's going to talk to us about, is it the right time to buy or sell? You know, right now with the way the market is, for some people it is a good opportunity. But otherwise, and then at the very end, we're going to have a Q&A. I'd like to introduce you to today's panel of experts. Kerry MacDougall has 20 years of experience and has been a Conway resident for many, many years. Her big belief is giving back to community, and she has many, many projects she's worked on over the year, nonprofits mostly. From being a board of director on the Mount Washington Children's Museum, being active with Starting Point, Arch Jubilee, the Lilliputian Montessori School, Conway Public Library, and most recently, she was on the board of directors of the New England Nordic Ski Association. Our second expert that's going to be speaking tonight is Brendan Battenfielder. Brendan is licensed in both New Hampshire and Maine and has plenty of experience, as he was a past president of the White Mountain Board of Realtors. He also is a North Conway resident and works from our Jackson and our North Conway offices. And you've probably known Brendan through his activity with his kids around the valley and as an active sportsman. Our third expert this evening that's going to speak with us is Bernadette Donahue. Bernie has 35 years of experience and has been a Mount Washington Valley resident for all of that. She currently lives in Freiburg and is licensed in New Hampshire and Maine. She's also a past president of the White Mountain Board of Realtors. She's had Realtor of the Year, and she's very active with many other organizations throughout the valley, Hands of Hopes, the Caring Wheel. In fact, she even was awarded the Good Neighbor Award from the New Hampshire Association of Realtors. We'd like to welcome all three of our guests. Why don't we kick off our topic with property values in the Conway, North Conway area. What are you seeing?
So what you may have seen, because I'm recognizing some of the names here, and I know several of you are out in this market hunting for a home as we speak. You're probably noticing the prices are going up, and inventory is tight. It's at a low compared to a year ago this time. I want to just share a slide here that'll provide some helpful information to all of you. So first, right now, here's North Conway and Conway. And what you're going to see is that we had 6 new listings this week. That is not that many. We have 43 homes for sale. And when we say homes, we're referring to both condos as well as single family homes. At this point, we have 63 homes or condos under contract, and 3 have closed this week. But I think in order to truly understand the market and how it's playing right now, and if you're either considering selling or buying or just curious about it, there are some interesting stats that I'm just going to jump over to that explain a little bit more about, let's see, can you all see that okay? Just explain a little bit more about what's going on. So at this point, if we talk about new listings, for the month of July, we had 30 new listings come on the market. That was a bump up from June. However, when we compare it to a year ago, July, we were down 44.6% in terms of new properties coming on the market in July. That's a big difference. As far as new pendings in July, we had 41, and that was definitely up a bit from the year prior. It actually fell even with June, which I find incredibly interesting. But when you look at closed sales, if you compare, in July of this year, we had 36 closed, and that was up 80% from a year ago. So we have fewer listings coming on. However, we're seeing more sales close. And so that's a very broad bold statement, I should say, about the current market. And, just from the point of view of a buyer, how different and tight it is at the moment. It's definitely what we call a classic seller's market. And that's just good to be aware of.
Absolutely. Do you see any growth, any specific type of things that people are looking for as far as a single family versus condo or land, or even people more prone to do new construction?
I think right now what I'm noticing, and the rest of the crew can chime in as well, but what I'm seeing is a lot of folks looking in the single family home market where the price ranges between $250 and $350. Right now, if you're hunting in that market, and if you've been hunting in it for a little bit, then you know what I'm going to say. When a new listing comes on, it's strap on your running shoes and go as fast as you can, because there's definitely a bit of a feeding frenzy, and it more often than not, we are seeing situations where it's a multiple offer. Excellent case in point, a couple weekends ago, this darling home came on the market over near Cathedral Edge in North Conway, and it was listed at $280. I believe it came on either late Thursday night or Friday morning, and by Sunday they had several offers in hand. And that's just become commonplace. Over the weekend, there was a condo that came on the market, priced very reasonably, adorable, up in Bartlett. And from what I'm hearing, there were over 10 offers in on it by Sunday. So, it's definitely, it's a fast-paced market.
So the home values, would you be safe in saying that they're definitely going up because of this scramble to get real estate?
Undoubtedly. This is an interesting comment a licensed appraiser made to me. And obviously appraisal can be a little bit subjective, but what he did say is right now he is giving 1% per month to increase in prices. So if you look at that, that's a 12% increase over a year. That's a decent bump up. So absolutely, it's just classic supply and demand. When the supply is lower and we have great demand, you're going to see prices go up, and we are most definitely seeing that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Brendan?
Kerry, that's a really interesting point, the 1% per month. If you look back 6 months ago, they're adding 6% to a value to try to compensate. And that's good growth for our region. That's been fantastic. But we are also seeing, especially some of the vacation market, there are people going 10% over the asking price. And that has been really an interesting situation that has put some buyers in a difficult spot, because somebody's popping up and they are probably outpacing what the appraiser can get for them. So we're seeing that certainly in North Conway, the Conway region, that's Route 16 corridor. We are seeing some just tremendous demand that we haven't seen in years.
Right, and I actually have a question from one of our guests about with the interest rate so low, are you seeing that you get more for your money? I don't know who would like to answer that.
I mean, so you're certainly, your carrying costs are lower. I mean, the cut to the bank every month is lower. Is that, I guess we'd have to crunch the numbers. Is that being offset by the fact that the house you're buying today is 3-6% higher than it was last year? So I think the interest rates are definitely making home ownership a little bit more comfortable for some people. It's helping people qualify higher. But it's also, but the prices are kind of offsetting that. You may be saving monthly, but you're paying a little more for the house.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anyone who has a question?
I'm very sorry. What is driving the significant change in the market? I'm sorry, I missed your starting point.
So
Thank you,
what
Richard.
is driving the change in the market?
Yeah.
So my comment to you, Richard, and this kind of segues into trends in real estate that I was going to start bringing up shortly. It seems to me, based on experience, that we do have a lot of people who are accelerating their purchase interests. And what I mean by that is they may have wanted to retire in 2 or 3 or 5 years, and now they're thinking, you know what, maybe I better grab something now. And I've seen that also in the sense of people selling their primary homes to move up here sooner, wanting to work remotely now, and because they can and their bosses are very, very comfortable now because we've gone through this period of Corona, we're now finding that that's one of the biggest reasons. I think people are, young families are also coming up as well, looking for properties. Not to say we don't still have a very strong vacation market, but I think people are trying to grab things while they're affordable. Maybe they're hearing that things will be going up a lot more in the future and feeling that now is better than later in terms of prices. So that's what I'm seeing.
I see. So you're telling me that it sounds like you're getting more new permanent residents that are interested.
I believe we are. We're getting both. But, predominantly we have a very strong vacation market here. But I've been seeing a trend of primary homeowners. Yes.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes.
Great. Does anyone else have a question?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, Kathleen.
Great, thank you. So I certainly understand and appreciate all these factors that are driving demand and prices. Do you have any way of thinking about or predicting how it might top out? How far will this Thank you. That's insightful.
Bernie?
Well, I was just going to jump in, Kathleen, to also mention, there is a balancing act that we all have to figure out and play. As Brenda mentioned, we do need affordable housing. And I participate in the rental program here at Badger Realty too, and I can tell you that rents are high and very scarce. So we have expectations in the Mount Washington Valley of service providers, right? We all like to go out to dinner. We all like to have waitresses and waiters, and we like to do things at the ski areas, and we expect the people who are employed to be able to live where they work and play as well. That's gotten really difficult. And you asked, where the crystal ball is with where's this going to top out. I think for affordability wise, if we keep pushing those prices, even though the interest rates are down and it makes it more affordable, we may see a lot of those young adults, like my children, who are in that age group who would be service providers. They may be going other places to get a better living wage or a place that they can afford, because we're a vacation area, we do tend to have a higher end rental market, and now also a higher end sales price. So that's going to be tough for them. So that may be a balance that'll figure itself out.
Right. It's complicated. It's pretty serious.
Absolutely. I think what I'd like to do is move along to our next topic, which is going to be a group topic. How has COVID-19 affected our home value? And if anyone has questions about the value of your property after we talk about these discussion points, we can definitely touch on them during the Q&A. But who would like to kick this one off? Kerry, Brendan?
I mean, I can talk to, right now at this point, I ran some numbers this morning, and if I look at single family homes listed in the Conway, North Conway area, right now the average list price is $315,000. And anybody who's in real estate knows that's definitely up from years past. And we've definitely seen an increase over the last few months. I think when COVID hit, I know I personally thought, oh, everyone's going to hunker down. It's going to be interesting to see. But if you talk to folks who were also selling around September 11th, although a very different situation in time, our sales were strong because it created an atmosphere where people said, maybe the mountains in a smaller town are safer, healthier, easier. And we're definitely seeing evidence of that right now in terms of the number of buyers coming to our area. And the resulting increase in asking prices.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely have all seen it. If you're living here in the Valley or coming and going and visiting or hearing from family members, town is packed this summer. It's been a topic of discussion amongst many, and a lot of that demand, may be just materializing this year because it was easier to drive here than it was to fly to your typical destination. Excuse me, but we've seen consistent demand. I mean, last year was not light either. And so being 3 hours from Boston and New England, being able to get here, that demand is continuing to be really strong.
Go ahead.
This is Rick Jakes again. Just to add to that, I'm looking for builders and excavators to build a new home, single level home for retirement. And I'm finding it very challenging to find builders that have the time to even talk to me. They have so much they're doing, and they said a lot of it to me is related to COVID. People are walking away from the cities now that they can work remotely, and that's from what I'm hearing from the builders.
Yeah.
Richard, we're seeing that. I mean, we certainly, I do have clients that bought a vacation home. They had planned to buy a vacation home. They're avid skiers. But when all this went down, they said, we're both working remote. We plan to be here for at least the next 3 months. And if there's a meeting we have to drive to at Boston, we will. But they became residents in a sense. I'm not sure if they registered here, whether they actually settled in and changed driver's licenses or what have you, but people are taking advantage of it. We're not seeing, I've talked to the principals, and we're not seeing a huge uptick of enrollment of students, but it was on the news, Waterville Valley saw a huge spike of second homeowners enrolling their children into the schools. So I think we are seeing that population burst now, and it'll be interesting to see as offices open, are people going to be called back to work, and will that shrink a little bit here? To echo your point, Richard, about builders, they're busy. They were busy coming into this before the pandemic started. They had spring starts, most of them lined up, whether it be spec houses or whether it be custom builds. And now they likely have 3 lined up going into 2021. There's been a lot of demand for new construction.
Yeah.
You know, to Richard's point, I think a lot of the building trades are, you know, actually somewhat dealing with a lot of people starting to retire. You know, when I look at the, you know, people in the plumbing business, the heating business, the electrical business, there was a time where a lot of people didn't want to get into that profession. And so consequently, you have the late 50s, early 60s into 70-year-olds that are still in it. A lot of the newer people are just starting to come in, and it really has created a little bit of a problem for builders to have licensed people to build homes. So I think that's one of the issues we've faced. And again, because of shortage of housing, builders are, to Brendan's point, are that busy. I know my husband's actually a builder, and he's busy until, you know, he has been for the last year, and he's tied up until probably the fall of 2021. Yeah. And all of the people that he works with are in the same boat.
Well, don't build a house.
Bernie, did you want to add to that?
Sure, and then Kathleen had a question. Just that because we're talking about COVID, and this is a group discussion, and we're part of the Mount Washington Valley, and we're all so proud of it. I think Richard is correct. It's not just the builders who are so busy. I mean, you talk to any real estate agent around, and they're having a hard time. There are not enough hours in the day to do what it needs to be done right now. And I think that is a result of COVID. I know myself, I'm working a lot of hours. Not that I didn't before, but it seems like the pile is continual and there's no end in sight. And that's different than I've seen before. But I also have to say, you know, we all need to be sensitive to the Valley restaurateurs and retailers and service providers. Everybody is dealing with this same influx that we're seeing in the real estate market on a retail and restaurant level. And, you know, if you all, you know, are obviously part of the Mount Washington Valley and care a lot about it, we would love for you to help spread that word of patience, cooperation, compassion, kindness. And you see it all over from the different retailers and restaurant owners just trying to survive, you know, and really trying to keep their head above water and keep their employees employed so that they make a good living. But so I just wanted to mention that as part of the COVID thing. It's not just builders, it's not just realtors. I think it's the COVID has really affected our valley in a good way in some respects because people are coming, but in a very stressful way for many people. They're not prepared.
Well, thank you, Bernie. I have a question from Pam about Airbnb changing the market. Are rules changing in North Conway? And I think I know we're like neck deep in that question. It's still up in the air. I think they haven't really ruled anything. Does anybody want to touch on that point before we move into some local market trends?
I can just reach out quickly. In the Conway itself is currently having a committee meet, and their goal is to have a proposed short-term rental ordinance on the books for 2021. So that committee exists. I believe you can either phone in or maybe even Zoom in to hear that committee. And it's a mixed crew of people that are supportive, and then other people that certainly want to try to regulate and curtail some of the rental aspects here. So that is happening. We are going to see more regulations come down the pike for Conway. And as realtors, we are cognizant of that, and we are trying our best to educate buyers coming into town that although these things are not on the books, that they need to understand that their change is coming, and how is that going to affect their purchase. And I would say we all have buyers that have called us and said, I want to buy a rental. The majority of buyers that we are working with, that we are walking through living rooms with day to day, are people looking for a primary home or looking for a vacation home to enjoy with their family. Some of them certainly want to rent, but many of them are not the true buy the property, never step foot in it, and run it like a machine. That does exist, and it seems like Conway's trying to get a hold of that and the effects of that in our valley.
Bernie, I know you touched on some of our local market trends that you've been seeing, but did you want to delve into that any further?
Yeah, sure. So I was reading a statistic that I thought was very interesting. It was from 2019 that 38% of buyers were actually millennials, and that's the 22 to 40-year-olds. So we are definitely seeing that trend. But why that's important is because they're a little different than some of us who are baby boomers. They're much more internet savvy. They do a lot of their research well before they make the phone call or ask for an appointment. They often know the properties inside and out because all that information is public record, right? So they do a lot of online processing beforehand. Some of the conditions that they're looking for are more newer. They love to be able to walk in and not do things, although I think that may be changing because of the price point. People may be more willing to get contractors to do some of the work that they know they can do, but it wasn't that long ago when it seemed like they just wanted it all done for them. They didn't really want to start from scratch. We're doing a lot more video tours in our office. So when properties are listed, we're trying to meet the needs of the millennials and also the coronavirus protocol by doing a lot more videos, digital tours. Everything we have, Debbie, actually is set up to be mobile friendly. So there was another statistic that was funny. 78%, this is nationwide, but 78% of these millennials found their home they purchased on their mobile phone. So, and I was with some folks this morning, and she was looking up properties faster than I could. I was trying to get on my mobile phone and do my thing, and she already knew the statistics and what was available, and I'm like, okay, fine. So we are dealing with a different set of buyers. The highlighted perks that they're looking for are conveniences, and that has a lot to do with convenience to the ski area or convenience to school or convenience to shopping and things like that. Internet speed, as far as a trend, that is one of the number one things people are looking for moving up here, whether it's vacation home and they're working from vacation home or whether it's a primary home. Internet speed is huge. They're also looking for schools and overall costs. So that's one of the big trends that I've seen. We talked a little bit about the accelerated purchasers, and they seem to come in many different categories, I've found. So yesterday I was here in the office on floor time, and I had a gentleman who's a contractor from Rhode Island just walk in, and it was the first time I ever heard this. He said, I'm looking to retire in a few years, so I want to buy something now. And I said, oh, when are you retiring? He said, in about 10 years. And I thought, oh, it used to be, 2 to 3 or 3 to 5. And he was one of those, I got to grab something now type of people. He was worried that if he doesn't do it now, then there wasn't going to be anything available when he does retire. We seem to be seeing a lot of people moving up. I can't tell you how many calls I've had from folks from New York and New Jersey. And because I'm a New Yorker at heart and lived there for many, many years, although I've been here longer than I was there, it seems to me that there's a lot of New York and New Jersey folks coming up. And that's probably the trend that most of the United States seems to be seeing right now with moving away from the cities. Also, I mentioned younger families. I'm working right now with a young family who have 3 kids, 1 on the way, and she grew up coming up here since she was 5 years old to ski. And now she wants to live here with her family. And part of that was precipitated by the COVID. They just decided, okay, now's a good time. You know, they made the decision, although that was in their future, it seemed to spark their decision. They want to live where they play, you know, and I think that's something we've always had a nice atmosphere to do both. And then the last one were some vacation buyers that I had from Cape Cod who were looking in the high-end range, and they were precipitated by the COVID as well, because all of their flights were canceled, all of their cruises were canceled. They were planning to go on vacation after vacation this year, and all of a sudden they couldn't. So they were planning to retire up here eventually, but decided to buy that home now so that they could really enjoy it and vacation here and be driving distance. So those are some of the trends that I'm seeing for sure. And then as far as the house itself, people are looking for extra space, whereas that's kind of different than we were seeing before. Now they're looking for a little bit bigger, a couple extra rooms. They want an office for her and an office for him. They want a place that has indoor playroom area for the kids to run around, maybe learning areas, an updated kitchen, and definitely high-speed internet.
Yeah, thank you, Bernie.
You're welcome.
I think all of us can probably relate with being in the house a little bit more. Those areas that become really noticeable that we need more space. So would anyone else from our panel like to say anything regarding the market trends?
Bernie did a great job of covering a lot of what we're seeing. Certainly the search data has mobile searching overtook computer searching and even showing up in person to try to find real estate. That probably a year, if not 2 years ago, most people are hopping on their phones. Even programs are driving around, and the programs are following them around town and popping up the properties that they're in.
Hi, this is Claire from New Jersey, and hi. My husband and I own a vacation home up in Jackson, and Brendan, you are our real estate agent, and my husband Charlie and Claire say hello to you. You were really great to work with.
Thank you.
But I know most of this is about residential, but I'm kind of curious if you have some observations about commercial development and what you're seeing in the market relative to that topic.
From a commercial perspective, things literally have exploded. There's a lot on the books, of different types of things going on there, whether they be, hotels, more hotels, whether we think they're needed or not. There's just a surge. I think that there are other things that are, in the making, that there are different. I know that there's a brew pub, I want to say a brew pub going in. Distillery, thank you. There is the affordable housing that is definitely coming on board. There are things in the works right at the moment that will add some more housing, more condos, and looking at some independent living, 55 and older community. So that is happening in the Valley.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question. I'm a New Jersey person from way back, so it's nice to hear another Jersey person. Okay, so does anyone else have a question? Oh, I got a question here from Pam. Are raw land prices going up as well, and how are sales stats for land?
We're definitely seeing an increase in demand in land. In fact, I think if we were to ask Bernie and Brendan, they're probably getting calls similar to what I'm getting, where you have the buyer who's been looking for a bit. He hasn't been able to find, he or she have not been able to find what they're looking for. So now they're thinking, okay, well, maybe I'll just buy land and build. And I think if we were to run our stats for our office, we'd see that over the last few weeks in particular, there's definitely an increase in the number of calls we're getting on land, an increase in interest. But jumping back to what we discussed earlier, where we sometimes then come to a bit of a halt, is that while there may be a parcel you could buy, although frankly, a lot of the good ones have sold this summer, then when it comes time to find the builder, they're all very busy. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic, but prices are creeping up on land as well. And I'm definitely seeing an increase in the number of calls I'm getting inquiring about it.
Mhm.
I think there's still a little bit of a false notion with buyers that they can build for less than they can buy, and that's not happening. You know, by the time they acquire the land and drill the well and put the septic in and the foundation, they don't even have a stick of wood on the property, and they've gotten themselves in such a high price range. The size of the home they're going to build, their expectations aren't quite there yet. So we need to do some education when they all asking for land, because ultimately they're not just buying land to hold on to, they're buying land because they want to build. So, but Brenda, you can speak to that.
Oh, I agree with you, Bernie. I think statistics will tell you from when you buy a piece of land and you work your budget. It's really important to know your end goal. And if you're looking for a house, just say you want to spend no more than $500,000. The rule of thumb would be not to invest more than 15 to 20% on the actual land, the land value. So in the case of 500, you really want to look for a piece of land that is no more than 100,000 at most. So there's a lot of nuances on that. But Kathleen, who is here, who works in our office, had a great statistic that I didn't pay enough attention to regarding in the towns of Jackson and Bartlett. Kath, I don't remember if you have the.
Well, Jackson is 74% national forest. Bartlett is 64% national forest. We have conserved land. There's Merriman State Forest in Bartlett. There's a lot of steep land, ledgy land. It's much different than in Conway, where you can have nice sandy soils, maybe a little bit easier build. But that really narrows down your options.
So we'll move along. We're going to go now to, is now the right time to sell or buy? I guess we could talk about I think we have covered a lot of this topic, but Brendan, why don't you start us off with this?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it sounds like a pretty easy question. If someone's telling you the answer to that question, the answer is going to be hands down, well, of course you should sell right now. It's a little bit harder to answer for yourself. What do I do if I sell right now? So that has been the discussion that we've been having at kitchen tables and in living rooms across this valley. It's a fantastic time to sell a piece of real estate. If it's your primary home, that's more than an investment decision. That's a lifestyle decision. That's a where do we go next decision. And that can make it a little bit more complicated. As we looked at, prices are up. We just have really low inventory. We continue to have low inventory. That's going to continue to drive demand. We're still seeing properties hit the market and get multiple showings in Conway within that first week. So prices are strong, interest rates are low, demand is high. If you have real estate to sell, this is a great time to sell it. But you have to make that further discussion with friends and family, or with family members. What do we do when we sell? Where are we going? What's the game plan? What are we buying into if we're going to buy? If you've got a vacation property and you're not using it, this is an opportunity to sell high. The bigger question is it the time to buy? And how is it to say, how can you answer both those questions as yes? Prices are going up. Bernie, I think, did a great job of mentioning that earlier, that these prices will push some people out. We've seen buyers, it's not only the first-time home buyers. We've seen people who thought they wanted to be a little over the 200 mark a year or two ago to get into a nice, comfortable vacation home. Well, if 200 plus 10% of growth in the last year, 2 years, all of a sudden now you need a lot more money to make that come together. And so some of those people have backed off. And first-time home buyers, they are if you're trying to buy into the Conway market, you can be pushed out pretty quickly by some of the vacation money that's out there. So that's been really difficult. And we're a tourist town. I mean, it's a tourist valley that exists for better or for worse. There are opportunities in some of the more rural regions of the valley. But is it the time to buy? Bernie also mentioned that rents are up. And we do see our first-time home buyers, our folks that have come here to rent, especially in that first-time home buyer market. They've said we're paying more in rent than the bank told us our mortgage would be, and not only would it maybe be cheaper if they could get into a home, but it might also certainly they're going to start to build equity. If we're continuing to see growth that's going to help that family move forward. And so although prices are high, there's still that advantage to look at, is now the right time to buy, rather than trying to sit back, continue to pay rent, and not take advantage of growth in values. I also try to explain to people, most of us aren't out there trying to buy real estate for a 2-year investment. We get a lot of, well, what happens if the market crashes? Well, do you plan to just own this for 2 years, 3 years? We can't predict where prices will go up or down in the next 10 years. But if you're able to, if you're looking at the long-term route, either a primary home or a vacation home you're going to enjoy with your family for many, many years, it still looks like a great opportunity to grow your wealth through an investment in real estate. And so, it's a personal conversation, and it boils down to what are your goals. But in the grand scheme of things, if you've got real estate that you can sell, this is a high market. If you're looking to invest in real estate, there's opportunities out there that you can benefit from.
Yeah. And what does the process look like with COVID going on? Let's say you're a seller.
Certainly. And Debbie, thank you for bringing that up, because that's the other question is, are you comfortable with that process? And we would have that conversation on a basis with any buyer and seller about, how do I go look at houses, or how do I manage to sell houses and let people in? We're using technology. Bernie brought it up. We're using technology more and more. Facebook marketing. We're using high definition virtual tours, walkthrough tours. We're doing a lot of virtual showings. So we're taking Zoom with us into someone's home, and they're asking questions and asking us back up and show me the boiler. And so it's kind of a touchless opportunity to see the home. We also are posting more virtual tours and more videos online to give people an opportunity to see a home in depth before they even step foot over the threshold. If you're a seller, the sellers we're working with, we're making plans that fit their goals. We have masks in place, gloves, booties if desired, or shoes off. We have sellers that we will open all the closet doors and doors to the pantry and everything, so it's almost sliders. It's pretty much a touchless walkthrough in the home. Properties, I have a property with a tenant, and I feel we need to go a little bit. It's not the tenant's not selling the property. The tenant is just trying to live out their lease. And we try to take a little bit above and beyond and wipe down the doorknobs, make sure everybody's sanitizing before they go in. And the tenant has been fantastic at allowing us to step into her unit. So we certainly have some protocol in place that we have agreed to at Badger Realty, but we are adjusting those protocol even further at the request of our clients.
Yeah, and add to that, there have been some homes where folks have said, you know what, I don't want children, and not because they don't love children, but because the fewer people we have walking through a home who don't have a stake in the ultimate purchase of the property, the safer it's going to be. So depending on the seller and their comfort level, perhaps their immune system status, there are many different ways that we can do this to try to keep it as safe and as comfortable as possible for all players involved. And buyers have been incredible through this. I think the others would agree. I haven't had a single buyer argue with me when I told them they had to wear gloves, a mask, and booties, or, you know, beforehand when I let them know that their children were going to have to stay in the car and we might have to tag team showings. So it's been good.
As far as if you're a seller and you're thinking of selling, I mean, what are some suggestions you guys have about, like, what would be, I mean, some things that a seller might want to get done to their home or prepare their home for putting it on the market? Bernie?
Well, because of the video tours that we just talked about and the photos, we do professional photography at Badger Realty. It really, really makes the properties shine. And it's our job to do that because we're trying to get our sellers the highest and the best. And it's often great for buyers to pre-qualify themselves before they actually go in and call and see the property. So we're not dragging people through the house that haven't already seen it in its best light with the photos. But in order to do that, sometimes it takes a while. You know, it takes a while to put away stuff, clothes from different season, things that you don't use and need anymore. You know, in a respect, stage the home. Some people pay for professional staging, and it actually makes the house look really great for photos. Other people don't afford the time or the money to do that, but they can do a lot themselves. Even if you need to get those plastic bins and put them all stacked nicely in the garage or in the basement, that shows a buyer that you're ready to move, take down all your personal stuff, and really try to clean things up. Cleanliness is huge. I tell you, if you're the type of person who can keep a property neat and organized and clean, it does make a big difference. And if you're not, that's where you need that little bit of lead time. You know, don't call your realtor to put it on the market tomorrow, but call your realtor to start to get some coaching, because a real estate agent can come in and give you that kind of an idea of what's important. You know, what can you move out? What can you change? And there's also sometimes repairs that need to be done that you're not seeing because you've lived there for so long, or you're just too busy to see. And some of those repairs are going to come up either on the appraisal, home inspection, or with the buyer. So some of them are safety concerns that the real estate agent can point out. So, and sometimes it's just a matter of touching things up, you know, with a paintbrush, and maybe putting some flowers in the yard and doing some seasonal decor if you've got one of those houses that already look great. So there's a lot of things you can do ahead of time. And as Brendan said, really think about what your game plan is. So when you're sitting with your real estate agent, you can say, look, I really need to sell in 2020. That's more important to me than the price. Or, you know what, if it sells in 6 months, that's fine, but don't let it sell in 30 days because I can't leave in 30 days. I have this obligation or that obligation. Those are the kind of conversations you need to have with your real estate agent, because their goals are your goals. So you need to kind of figure out what your goals are and maybe even talk them through with the real estate agent, because maybe you haven't thought about those things too. And in terms of, you know, figuring out the current market of multiple offers, and what do you do if you get a bunch of offers and you're not sure which ones to take? That's why taking the time to get a real estate agent that you're 100% comfortable with, that you feel you can trust and is very, very straightforward and honest with you and really listens to your needs, is going to really, really make a difference in the end.
Yep. Thank you, Bernie. Well, thank you to all of you for coming to the meeting. If anyone would like to have a little Q&A session at the tail end here, I think we've covered all of our talking points, and we can open up the floor to questions.
It's interesting how, this is Richard Jake.
Hi,
It's
Richard.
interesting how this communication works. I learned quite a bit today. Thank you.
Great.
Purchased a property to retire on a year or so ago. Unfortunately, COVID got in the way, making it complicated. But the information I gathered tonight is going to be helpful. Thank you very much.
Well, we are going to put together a list of builders that will supply to everyone. I'll email everyone that was on this meeting, so you'll get that as a resource sheet for you to hopefully find a builder that'll work in your time frame.
This is Neil Allen. Hi to some of you who I haven't seen for a while. Good to participate. Just want to compliment the panel and Brenda for putting this initiative together. It's a really good overview of the market. I think, obviously in the valley, but also overall a good sense of where things are going. Of course, the big crystal ball that none of us can really answer is, where will the economy be as COVID continues to race through the United States? We're still in the first phase. And what happens to the economy is still up in the air. So that's going to have potentially a big impact on your industry and the decisions that consumers have to make. And hopefully we'll break through this over the next few months and see some real progress here in the States. So kudos to you all, though. Great presentation.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. I think to your point, we have the crystal ball we could look at with no really answers either. You know, I talked with a lot of national, people in the National Association of Realtors across the country, and they were feeling the same way, that, we've got a housing crisis separate from the COVID crisis, separate from what could be a financial crisis. So we just don't know. This is probably the first time, as talking with a lot of people, that I won't say in history, but typically you have one thing upon us. It could be the financial crisis and you adjust for that, or the housing crisis and you adjust for that. But the combination of the pandemic with the two, we didn't expect to have a strong market the way we have it, but here we are in a strong market. So, Kathleen?
The housing crisis and the pandemic, I think there are a lot of people who are going to continue to work remotely. And I think there's going to be a lot of office space that is going to go unused. And I think with the housing crisis, maybe a lot of that could be converted into housing. I mean, we don't have a lot of that here, but nationally speaking, that may be able to alleviate, some of the housing crisis.
That's a fair point, Kathleen. The dream of home ownership is strong and has been strong. 2018, 2019 were strong markets. People felt confident about the economy. I think people still feel confident that they want a strong economy. We may run into hurdles. We're going to see the effects of those that have not been able to get back to work. I think if you work in the theater district, you're probably surrounded by people that are struggling right now. If you're surrounded by real estate brokers, they're struggling to keep up. In the sense that it's a busy market. We are, I guess, blessed that our business is running strong right now. But some of those sectors that are not seeing growth or profit or even employment right now are going to catch up with us. But there's a lot of that demand is out there. There's a lot of people that have seen home ownership as something that is really important to them, which is helping to continue to draw that demand.
Absolutely. And does anyone else have a question relating to our talking points about market trends, your property value? A service that we do provide is, an estimate of what your home value is worth. And you can always reach out to us for that. It's a free service, and we're always welcome to help you. Brendan?
I would say, it's an exciting real estate market out there right now. Even if you don't have a goal to step into it, it's just interesting to watch. And think back at 2010, it was a scary real estate market. When foreclosures were the topic. People would call in, well, send me all the foreclosures. Now they ask you, send me the foreclosures, and you say, I don't know if I can find you one. People have a lot more equity. We were underwater back in 2011, 2012. People have money in their homes and feel safer, comfortable. Small business owners can pull equity from their home, entrepreneurs. So there's a lot happening in the real estate market that's excited. The COVID piece is difficult, and we are managing that with guidance and really some smart thinking. But the fast pace, I guess, if you're in it, it's stressful. But if your neighbor's selling their house, if your child's selling their house, if your sister's buying a house, it's more fun than it is frightening right now.
Absolutely. Very good points. Well, I guess if no one else has any more questions, we'll let you go have your dinner. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Great
you
turnout
for
tonight.
coming.
Yep. Thank-
Thank you much. Excellent.
Very
Thank you.
good.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys and gals.